Coming up on today's video, crucial injury updates from all 20 Premier League teams, my updated Game Week 7 wildcard draft, should you buy Cole Palmer, and much, much more. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and it's time to make those final decisions for Game Week 7. Alright guys, let's start off by going through all of the injury news, through all of the teams, all of the head-to-heads here guys. And if you do enjoy these videos and you do want to make sure you are getting all of the final updates every single Friday, make sure you have subscribed, make sure you got those notifications on, and a like on the video would be very, very appreciated as well. But let's have a look at Crystal Palace first. This is the opening fixture of the game week, and Franca has picked up a fresh injury, and apparently he won't play much in 2024. Chadi Riyad, Doucouré, and Richards remain out for Palace. For Liverpool, Chiesa has missed training and is doubtful for Game Week 7, which could be good news for some of those other attackers for Liverpool. Elliott, of course, is out long-term with that foot injury, and Jota was actually rested midweek. Luis Diaz playing 72 minutes. Now, I do want to just put in a quick warning here. I know it's difficult to predict the minutes from players sometimes, but a lot of Liverpool fans are actually predicting that Luis Diaz might be rested this game week, might be rotated, and we could see maybe Gakpo come in instead in the Liverpool starting 11. So just be aware of that one. Hopefully, because this is the early kickoff, we might get some leaks. So make sure you join me for the deadline stream tomorrow morning, where we will reveal any final leaks we have around Luis Diaz and any other players around the grounds. For Arsenal, no real concrete news on Ødegaard. He has no timeline, but he doesn't seem to be close to returning. There's no mention of him being back soon or anything like that. And even the Norway manager said that he's not expecting him back anytime soon either for the Norway team. So could still be a fair few weeks for him. I would predict a minimum of like maybe game week 9, 10, best case scenario. But it could be longer. We honestly don't know. Arteta keeping his cards very close to his chest here. White and Timber, however, are close to returning. We don't know for sure if they're going to be available for Game Week 7, but they're close, at least. Marino also got his first minutes during the midweek, which is very nice for him to get another player back for Arsenal to maybe take one of the positions in midfield. Could be quite useful. I wonder if that throws into question the minutes of the likes of Martinelli and Trossard, however. One to keep an eye on. And Southampton, Stevens is suspended until Game Week 9. Smallbone and Sulemana are still not ready. And Stewart has actually been talked up as a potential starter for Southampton. He's a 4.6 million forward, so if you're looking for a cheap forward, maybe he could get some minutes fairly soon. For Brentford, Norgard is back and available. Henry is back in training, but not quite ready to start. And of course, the long list of injuries for Brentford: De Silva, Hickey, Jensen, Nunes, Thiago, and Wissa, all still out. For Wolves, Bueno is fine following a Game Week 6 injury scare, and Dawson is in partial training following illness. He's still not 100%, so we don't know if he's going to be able to play against Brentford. Potentially advantage and Burmo there. Gonzalez, Kalajdzic, Mosquera, and Traore are out long-term for Wolves. For Leicester, Daka and Stalazic both still out with those ankle issues. Chowdhury has also dislocated his shoulder this week. He is going to be out. And Vestergaard is back in training and available. For Bournemouth, Adams is still out, but will return to training next week. Everyone else is available, so Bournemouth could be the new Fulham. A clean bill of health, nearly, very close. Next week, could they be the new Fulham? Let's see. Speaking of Fulham, here is this next fixture. For Man City, De Bruyne still unavailable. The last news we heard on him is that he could be back this side of the international break, but if he's not back this side, then maybe he is next side, which would put us at Game Week 8. But we don't know. It could be a little bit longer for him. Ake and Bob remain out, and Rodri, as we know, he's out for the season, just in case you missed that one. For Fulham, Vinicius and Cuenca both out, and everyone else is available. So Fulham with 2 injuries. They usually have 0, but they've actually got 2. Like I said, Bournemouth, they're coming for Fulham's title as the cleanest bill of health. For West Ham, Alvarez returns following suspension. Kudus was reportedly hooked at half-time last week following a bust-up with the manager. Maybe a bit of a disagreement there. So is his position in the team maybe in question? Of course, Somerville is going to be ready to take his place when ready. Fulkrug, he is still out, but could return in Game Week 8. And for Ipswich, Kajust has an issue with his knee, apparently. He's going to be out this game week. There are other little issues being assessed for Ipswich Ipswich apparently too. And Broadhead and Clark should be available. They've been back in training for a couple of weeks now, so I don't see why they wouldn't be available to play, which is good. Okay, some fresh concerns with Everton. Branthwaite has picked up a new injury, a thigh injury during training this week, so he could actually end up being out, even though he's only just come back. So bad news there for Everton. And more bad news as Mykolenko is rumoured to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with a fresh calf injury. I haven't been able to verify this yet, but some fairly trustworthy sources are reporting this, so it's one to keep an eye on for sure. Don't expect to play Mykolenko in any of the next couple of game weeks if you do have him. Of course, we do have the international break coming up, so that is going to help if you do have Mykolenko, as that will occupy one of the 2 to 3 weeks that he is out for. Broja, Chamiti and Coleman are all still out. And for Newcastle, Isak is ruled out once again with his toe injury. He could be back for game week 8. Same with Wilson, by the way. He has a back injury, but he's also expected, well, hoping to be back for game week 8 anyway. So we could see these guys maybe back as FPL options reasonably soon. I guess let's see. Pope, Share and Trippier, they are all expected to be available, picking up little issues, but nothing too significant. But that depends if you trust Eddie Howe. We know about Eddie Howe sometimes misleading us as FPL managers, but just to put it out there, it looks pretty good for the 3 defensive assets for Newcastle. So could clean sheets be back on the cards for Newcastle? Well, I guess we're hoping for a lot there, but you never know. For Aston Villa, McGinn remains out. Bailey and Onana both picked up knocks in the midweek Champions League game against Bayern, and both are doubtful, apparently. So if you do have Bailey or Onana, please be aware of that one. Could spell positive news for Rodgers if you own him. There was also Ramsey potentially picked up an injury as well. So yeah, Rodgers' minutes look really good against Manchester United. Mings and Kamara are still out, but they could return after the international break, which is obviously next weekend. So yes, could see big improvements from Aston Villa. 2 real key players for them in the defensive areas. Maybe we could see, I don't know, Aston Villa clean sheets. Finally, could it happen? I don't know. Manchester United, Fernandes is available following his red card appeal. That has been rescinded now, so he is going to be okay to play. Can't quite say the same thing about him in Europe, but that's another conversation. Mainu is going to have a late assessment as well. Malacia, Shaw and Yoro remain out. For Chelsea, Chukwuemeka missed the midweek game due to illness. James and Kellyman are still out, but everyone else is available. So in terms of those major Chelsea assets, all looking good to go. All looking good to go. For Nottingham Forest, Gibbs White is available again following suspension. However, Danilo and Sangare are long-term absentees. For Brighton, Van Hecke remains out with a groin injury. That is bad news for Brighton's defensive prospects. João Pedro also still out, and the injury has been described as long-term. I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit here with the Hertzler quotes, but it doesn't sound very positive for João Pedro. So if you do have him, looking for a replacement might be a good idea, because I'm really not sure how long he's going to be out for. If it's longer term, we could be looking at weeks to months even. Veltman is going to be available this week, however, following illness. And for Spurs, Son is unlikely to play in game week 7 due to a hamstring injury that he has at the moment. Really would not be counting on Son, and would be looking to sell Son if I had him right now. Udogie, however, is expected to be available following a quad issue. Richarlison and Odobert are still out. Following all of that injury news, looking through at some of my predictions for who I think is going to win in game week 7, and I'm predicting the big teams really to get results here. Lots of wins: Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Spurs. I think all of these teams will kind of win. We could see a couple of draws. The tighter games looks like West Ham versus Ipswich, who have been quite impressive, and Everton versus Newcastle. I think Everton have shown some promise this season, and Newcastle, real mixed bag this season. So I guess we'll see what happens there, but these are my predictions. Of course, if you think you can predict better than me, then go ahead. Use the link at the top of the description to join my Sleeper League. We are giving out prizes every month, so you don't even need to start from the start of the season. If you have just a good few game weeks, this week, this month, brand new league starting for October this month. If you think you can predict just 3 game weeks worth of scores, you could be in for a very good prize. So get involved, guys. I'm currently 4th in the Sleeper League, by the way. So let's see if any of you guys can beat me and my predictions. And of course, they also have a European game. If you want to do Champions League predictions, then there's that too. But get involved. Got so many prizes to give away. Let me give them to you. Last month's prizes are going to go out very, very soon. Link in the description. So last week we did a clean sheet odds section of the video, and I love this kind of stuff, but do let me know this odds stuff, this spread betting market stuff. Let me know if this is something you like or not. If this is boring, a little bit too dry, then yeah, of course we can remove it from these videos. But I think it's really useful for making those final decisions as the video title suggests. So looking through these clean sheet odds, it looks like Arsenal and Man City are way out in front as the most likely teams to keep clean sheets. But coming in just behind them, we have the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool and West Ham. So if you've got any defenders from these teams, there would be definitely players that I would be looking to start in game week 7. Looking further down the table, we have teams like Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Fulham and Southampton. Now I know a lot of you guys still have Crystal Palace defenders and goalkeepers, maybe have Forest there as well, and maybe have Fulham, the likes of Robinson potentially. It's all looking pretty bad for them for the clean sheet points, so something to be very much aware of. It's Arsenal and City who are likely to keep the clean sheets this week. I would particularly have a look at City defenders to add into your team this week. Gvardiol, for example, if you are looking for hopefully some clean sheet points, but as we've seen this season, it's pretty tough to get those clean sheets, isn't it? So yeah, we've got to pin our hopes on Arsenal and City this week, maybe a little bit of Chelsea and Liverpool too. And here are the goal scorer odds as well, and we see Haaland once again way out on top, 1.17 projected goals this week, which is really, really nice. Makes him a very obvious captain option for this week, but there are some other players here as well. We see the likes of Saka and Havertz each at 0.65 projected goals for this week against Southampton at home. So if you do want to go a bit differential, Saka is definitely a player I would look at for those for the captains. But if you've got a few players from this list, I think you're going to be looking pretty good in general. One thing to note is that Palmer is on 0.59 here, so he's around the same as Saka and Salah. So we are going to talk about whether you should buy Palmer or not, and who you would transfer out for him. But for sure, you know, looking at this, is it worth it? Particularly when you add in assists as well. And what you'd probably say that Saka and Salah may be a little bit more creative than Palmer. So it looks like these players are just as good, if not better, than Palmer for this week, based on these odds generated by people who get paid a lot more than me to project these kinds of things. So they really do know what they're talking about. Of course, shout out to Rob T FPL for providing all these. And guys, let me know how many of these players on the top goal scorer odds, how many players do you have? I think I've got 5, which is pretty nice. Let me just check. So I've got Haaland, Saka, Havertz, and Burmo. And Vardy. So I've got 5 from this list. How many of you guys? Say if you've got 4, you're looking pretty good for game week 7. Let me know. So I made a little table here. I originally did this as kind of more of a like a diagram, but I think this works a little bit better. Whether you should buy Palmer this week and how you can buy Palmer this week. So first of all, the first player is Salah. So if Salah is the player you think you're going to sell for Palmer, I would maybe do it for free. I wouldn't do it for a hit. But if you are making a double transfer, which involves upgrading another player, so you're freeing up some money by downgrading Salah, and that allows you to maybe do a dunk to Gvardiol, for example, then I think it might actually be worth it. So that could be a really good idea. But would I sell Salah in isolation, just a straight move from Salah to Palmer? That one's a little tougher, to be honest. I don't know if I would do that or not, but I certainly wouldn't do it for a hit. For Saka, I don't think I would sell him under any circumstances for Palmer. Just stick with Saka for this week and next, and then think about moving Saka to Palmer in game week, I believe it's 9, where Saka's fixtures get worse and Palmer's fixtures get better. I think that's a very good point to make that transfer, but if you're a Saka owner, stick with him, in my opinion. He's got very good projections for this game week. Son, yeah, just sell him. Sell Son for Palmer. Nice and easy move there for you guys to do because Son is potentially injured. Same situation with De Bruyne. For Fernandes, little bit more difficult now he's available. Don't know if I'd do it for a hit, but Definitely something I would consider doing for free, even if it means having to downgrade another player. Luis Diaz is more difficult, and maybe this depends on leaks. If we get a leak that Luis Diaz is not starting, then I would maybe do it even for a hit, but using current information, I'm not sure. Maybe. It really does depend. So for most people, you're probably not going to be buying Palmer this week, but if you do have a Son or a De Bruyne, or even a Fernandez, or you have a Salah and another upgrade you'd like to make in your team, maybe you have 2 free transfers right now, there are some opportunities here. There really are some opportunities to jump on Palmer, but it's not going to be the right move for everyone. It's going to be very team dependent, but hopefully this will maybe clear up what my personal opinion is on what I would do regarding the Palmer situation. But if there's any other questions around this, how you can personally get Palmer that maybe isn't covered by this graphic, again, let me know. I will try and answer you guys in the comments. So some people are on a wildcard in Game Week 7, and even if you're not, maybe this is the kind of team you should be targeting towards. Now, this team does cost 100.7 million, so it is a little bit more expensive than the starter budget, but hopefully a lot of you guys have increased your budget, increased your team value over the first few weeks. If you haven't, then Brennan Johnson down to McNeil would work to save a little bit of cash there. But let's go through the team. So Raya in goal, a defense of Gvardiol, Alexander-Arnold, and Ait-Nouri. In midfield, we've got Palmer, Trossard. Yeah, we're going a little differential here. And Burmo, Rogers, and Johnson. And up front, Haaland captain and Solanke. I really like the double Spurs attack for the next 4 or 5 game weeks. I like that a lot. Going for a couple of City players seems nice as well. And we kind of maybe reduce our amount of Arsenal and Liverpool players as we go into a Game Week 7 wildcard. Now that Leicester fixture is behind us and we get closer and closer to that dreaded fixture of Liverpool versus Arsenal that I'm sure is going to cause concerns for a lot of people. On the bench here, we've got Slicker, Raul Jimenez, Vandenberg, and Murillo. And maybe Vandenberg and Murillo can rotate a little bit with Ait-Nouri, depending on the fixture. But I like the look of this team. I also made a Game Week 12 wildcard team. Now, if you haven't wildcarded yet, and you're not wildcarding in Game Week 7, Game Week 12 looks like a really nice time to play that wildcard, because from there, Chelsea's fixtures look really good, Aston Villa's fixtures look really good, Arsenal's fixtures look pretty decent, particularly from a defensive point of view, and you might want to reduce your Liverpool, your Man City, and certainly reduce your Spurs assets. So if you're wildcarding in 12, going for Spurs players now is nice, and then wildcard out of those Spurs players in 12, because it's City versus Spurs in Game Week 12. Now, we've got Haaland in this team, but I have to admit, I can see a world in Game Week 12, when I use my wildcard, I can see a world in which I do not have Haaland in my team. Sounds crazy right now, but Palmer for captain in Game Week 12 against Leicester, 14 against Southampton. This could definitely work. Palmer always scores huge points against the weaker teams. We see it time and time again. But just running through this team, it's Raya and Gabriel, so double Arsenal defence. Robertson, a little bit cheaper than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Ait-Nouri in defence, and then in midfield, Palmer and Burmo, Semenyo. By the way, Bournemouth's fixtures after 7 are pretty bad, but then they get good again in 12, so it's a nice opportunity to jump back on Semenyo later on. Rogers and Smith Rowe. Haaland, Watkins up front, and then on the bench, we've got Slicker, Dunk, Vandenberg, and João Pedro, if he is back by this point. Of course, we've got about a month and a half until Game Week 12, so there's plenty of time for João Pedro to return to fitness. And you know, the fixtures for Bryson are pretty good from there as well. So few fixture swings, few opportunities. This is what I'm eyeing up at the moment for a potential Game Week 12 wildcard. But, you know, I'll hopefully have a little bit more budget to play with and might make some other potential changes as we get closer. But again, it's nice to have an idea right now of what you are heading towards, I suppose. Game Week 7 predicted points in terms of who you might want to captain. According to Fantasy Football Hub, Haaland on top, 8.8 predicted points here. Palmer is actually in second with 7.8 predicted points. And then we've got Saka and Salah not far behind Palmer there. So again, it seems like everyone, all of the different ways of projecting these things are all saying Palmer, Saka, Salah. There's not really too much between these players, but it is putting Haaland out in front in every model, every projection that we use. Haaland seems to be the guy to captain this week. So we have to recommend captaining Haaland Palmer, Saka, Salah are other options. Havertz actually comes in 5th as well if you want to go really out there. But if you've got Saka, you probably go for Saka ahead of Havertz in terms of those Arsenal captains, I suppose. But Haaland is the safe pick, as we always know. And by the way, guys, you can get full access to Fantasy Football Hub for free. They're offering a free trial at the moment if you want to check that out. Link the second link in the description for Fantasy Football Hub if you do want to get that full access, try out all of their tools, everything that they have completely for free for a small amount of time. But worth checking out, guys. Let's move on. Finally, we're going to do my dream team prediction for Game Week 7. 51 points in Game Week 6. It was a rough week. If you didn't have Palmer in your team, then you're always going to have a bad score. But 51 points is not too bad. For Game Week 7, my dream team has Flecken in goal, Gabriel, Gavardio, and Gusto in defence, so we really are looking at those clean sheet odds. And then in midfield, we have Saka, Trossard, and Burmo and Semenyo. Really like the look of this. Haaland, Watkins, and Solanke as our forwards here. So guys, if your team looks anything like this for Game Week 7, I think you are on for a winner. A real winner. This team looks really strong. And you know what? This looks pretty similar to what a lot of people who wildcarded in Game Week 6. And I know Game Week 6 wildcarders, most of you guys are going to feel disappointed. But moving into this week, I think you might be rewarded. I really do think there's a good chance you are rewarded with some good points. But let's see how it goes. It's all predictions for now until we actually get to see the game. But hopefully, guys, you have enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, make sure you do drop a like, subscribe if you're new around here and you want to get this information every single Friday, and check out another video if you would like to. I uploaded my team yesterday, but this is the video YouTube recommends you watch. I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.